What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Meran podcast. My guest today is Jonah Williams. Jonah is a pro skier from Utah. He quickly blew up on the scene in 2015, winning Superunknown XII and making waves online with his flawless style and tech skills. 8 years later, Jonah is recognized as one of the best all-around skiers in the world. Through the years, we've seen him kill it in the streets, park, and backcountry with Level 1, the Coterie, and more recently with Strictly. Jonah had an insane year in 2022. He released Life and Stuff, a compilation of his best shots from years prior, and also had the closing segment in Strictly's last film, Delete. Following these two insane video projects, Jonah won the prestigious Skier of the Year award at the 2022 Newschoolers Award. Last season, Jonah joined Rossignol and put together a plan to team up with friend and filmmaker Gavin Rudy to produce a video project together. In this episode, we talked about a bunch of stuff. His youth in Utah, winning Superunknown XII, recently going to Superunknown XX in Mammoth, filming with Strictly, signing with Rossignol, and much, much more. This episode is presented by Rossignol. Founded over 100 years ago, Rossi has played a deep and major role in shaping skiing into the sport we enjoy so much today. To me, Rossignol has always been a dope brand that was synonymous with quality products. My skis when I was racing, Rossi's. My first ever twin tips, the classic green scratch. They've supported legendary skiers forever and still do with legends like Parker White, Chris Logan, and Tatum Monod currently on their team. Plus, it's so cool that they've added a skier like Jonah Williams to their team this season. Jonah is an incredible skier who has been killing it on the scene for close to 10 years now. He's one of the most well-rounded and stylish skier in the world, and it's awesome to see a brand like Rossi backing him and allowing him to create magic for our enjoyment. Having seen Parker and Jonah shred their new sender-free 110 ski this spring, and having talked about it with Jonah, it looks like one hell of a ski. Check out their full skis and outerwear lineup at rossignol.com or at your local ski shop. Support companies who support skiing. Support Rossignol. Shout out to the patrons on Patreon: Will Cameron, Raph Diaz, Laurent-Olivier Martin, Holden Baldassi, Ryan Bruninghouse, Sam Chef, and Nick Gosselin. Also, big thanks to the sponsors: Rossignol, Planks Clothing, Decans Restaurants, and Access Board Shop. Let's go! Mr. Jonah Williams, welcome to the podcast.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. What are you up to these days? Right now we're talking. You're in Ogden, Utah. What's your status?
Yep, you got that right. I'm just resting, kind of. It's been a big, busy winter. I just got back from Superunknown at Mammoth with Level 1, which was sick. And now I'm just kind of chilling, resting my body and getting my mind back to a calm place and kind of reorganizing all my personal belongings, switching from winter mode to summer mode. So that kind of thing.
Tell me about Superunknown. As of now that we're talking, we've seen some Instagram clips, but we haven't seen any videos of it. Superunknown 20 years flew by. Mm-hmm. You're the winner of Superunknown 12?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Superunknown 12 back in 2015. So this year they made the contest just like every year, Park Shoot and Mammoth, all of that. But they also invited 40 plus riders, pros, past Superunknown winners. How was that?
Yeah, that's about it. It was like 40 more riders. Yeah, it was crazy. It was so cool. Level 1 crushed it, and I hope they keep doing that. I think we all tried to do our part on Instagram to promote the whole thing so that Mammoth was really hyped, and because that's really how we were able to make it happen, I think, is Mammoth, hooking it up as big as they did. So if they're stoked, we can keep doing it. But it was insane, man. It was so cool. First, it's crazy that it's been 8 years since I won, because I still feel like a young kid, but it's been 8 years. So it was really cool to go back for something like that and feel that energy, and then also be able to put my energy into the finalists as best I could, which was hard because there's like 60 of us lapping this private park all day. So it's hard to see everything that everybody's doing and meet everybody, but everyone was intermingling pretty well. It was like a mix of different generations of skiers. There was the younger crowd that are just like really coming up on the scene right now. And then there was some OGs there, and there was some people that were in between, and it was so cool because everybody was firing. Like Chris Logan, Parker White, watching them lap the park together and just vibe. It was so sick, man. And they were skiing so well. And like I got to ski with Keegan again. I hadn't skied with Keegan in a long time, but we used to compete. We were like in the contest scene at the same time, trying to come onto the scene. And so we used to ski together quite a bit when we would travel for contests. And so it was really fun to lap with Keegan again. It was like nothing had changed. You know, you're watching these legends ski together and all these young homies be all hyped up. It was like such good energy all around. It was amazing. Big ups to Level One, Connor Smith and Josh Berman and the whole media crew for putting that on, and Mammoth, because it was a one of a kind event. It felt like what West Coast Sessions used to be, you know. And so I hope that they can keep doing that and grow it. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, because West Coast Session was kind of a contest, but there wasn't really any pressure to it. You know, it evolved to a point where it in the last year it became kind of a video contest, but from what it felt like, it was just people skiing together for a week, and the contest was just something that happened, but it wasn't the main point really.
Yeah, totally. I only got to participate in West Coast Sessions like the last 2 years or the last 3 years. The first one I poached, and then I was like getting invited by the very end, but it never felt like a contest. Part of that probably was me being blinded by skiing with all these pros. I was like starstruck the whole time, but yeah, it never felt like a contest. It was just like a big gathering party. It was pretty awesome. And yeah, Super Unknown has that spark, you know. It could be that. It's pretty cool.
And it's so sick what you mentioned that there was the mix of generations where it's like skiing needs a happening like that to have those generations together, because it's not as if, as you said, Parker White and Chris Logan are going to shred with a young 20-year-old that's on the park scene, because where else could they link up?
Yeah.
It's a nice occasion.
Yeah, it's so true. It was awesome, man. And well, plus Chris and Parker used to live in Mammoth, you know, when they were stepping onto the scene. So they know the mountain really well. And it was kind of cool. They both sort of stepped up as leaders and like were showing everybody around. It was really cool. There was one day where um we did a slush-a-lanche. Have you seen those? Do you know what a slush-a-lanche is?
Yeah, where everyone like side slips together.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, you go to like a really steep part of the mountain where there's like a funnel in the steep slope, and everybody side slips together, and you create basically like a small avalanche with slough, and it just like carries you down. It's really fun. But yeah, Parker White and Chris totally like led the charge and got everybody to go do it. So there was like 70 of us doing it together. It was so cool. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
How does that end up usually? Do people get tangled up in it, or what's the aftermath?
Not really. It's pretty mellow. The snow never starts moving that fast. You're going like maybe 7 miles per hour. I don't know what that is in kms, but pretty slow. You're kind of just cruising. It's like you're on a lazy river, you know.
How was the actual day to day for you guys? Because I think from the previous years for Super Unknown, it was really like hitting certain setups for the contestants. The whole schedule was made towards the competition. But from what I understand, this year it was just like a big session where everyone was writing and getting filmed randomly, kind of.
Yeah, pretty much. There was a bigger media crew than typical Super Unknowns, so that made it slightly easier because different filmers and photographers could kind of just station throughout the park and just like film a feature where everyone was throwing down on. But that ended up being pretty much every feature throughout the park all day. And so I think it was more challenging for the media crew because it's hard to capture all of the good skiing that was going down. But as far as the vibe goes, it was super, you know. It was like you're lapping a park with your good friends, and it's the best park you've ridden in years. At least for me it was. Well, that was pretty much a general consensus. I think everybody thought the park was like one of the best parks ever. It was insane. The flow was so good. So more challenging, I think, for the media crew, but I think they did a good job in capturing the overall vibe. And You mentioned you hadn't seen much video from it yet. I think that's a big reason why. It's like they had so much footage that I think they have to postpone a video a little longer, and we'll probably make more than one video from it because there's so many bangers. There's 70 skiers skiing around, It's so crazy.
70 skiers, and if everyone's lapping nonstop and you're a filmer on a certain features, dude, the amount of shots must be in the thousands.
Yeah. The media crew would sort their footage every single night. And so we're skiing all day. They were running the chair for us until 6 p.m. So we're going up, we're having like a meeting in the morning, or I guess it was like noon every day. And then we would start skiing. And most days, everyone would ski from noon till 6 p.m. That's like so much skiing. And the laps are pretty fast because the chair's fast. Anyway, the filmers are involved in this whole process, lapping and everything, using all their energy. And then we get back to the hotel and everyone wants to hang out and chill. But the media crew would just go to their room and they would just sort all of the footage. And they'd be sorting till like 2 in the morning, most nights, I think.
Man,
It was insane.
that's
Because, like you said, if you're standing on the knuckle for 2 hours and there's people coming through, like 60 people every 20 minutes, you're getting like 100 shots an hour that are probably pretty good. It's nuts. I'm excited to see all the footage and whatever. They're going to be able to make like a mini movie out of it or something because there's so much footage.
And now it's time for a first sponsor break. I love Planks Clothing. I've been using their gear for 3 seasons now, and I only have great things to say. Great, stylish products that get the job done whether I'm skiing on the hill or filming street with the boys. Spring season is upon us, and Planks Clothing is here with a new streetwear drop on their website. Made from 100% organic cotton, these hoodies and t-shirts will keep you looking fresh for seasons to come. My favorite one is the smiley hoodie that I'll be rocking for sure this coming spring and summer. Check out the new streetwear drop at planksclothing.com. Support companies who support skiing. Support Planks Clothing. They should. Like, to me, there's no, with these days where, there's Instagram and TikTok and whatever and YouTube, you got to put them all out. If it's not a mini movie, just, put the content out there because there must be gold in there.
Oh, yeah. And I think they've been doing pretty good on Instagram, but I also think that's why they didn't. Usually, you would wait to release whoever won Superunknown until you release like the recap video or whatever. I think they couldn't do that because there were so many skiers there. It was like, one, it's going to be hard to keep it a secret, and two, we're not going to be able to have an edit ready for weeks because we have so many shots. So we're just going to post it on Instagram, which I think worked. It was a good way to do it. And this year is a trial run anyway. And I think for having it be the first year they do it this way, it ran really smoothly. And then next year, as long as they can do it the same, they'll be able to make necessary changes and have it be run smoother.
Yeah, you mentioned that you won 8 years ago, but you were still feeling like a kid.
Hmm.
How was it? Because you might still feel like a kid, but there's like that clash of reality when you see the actual kids that are 8 years younger.
Hmm.
How was that seeing the how I don't know how many they were in total, maybe 15 with the boys and girls, but that whole crew of the new generation.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really cool. I'm just super grateful to be a part of it still. I'm glad that I haven't like got burnt out and faded away from skiing. I'm just glad that I'm still in it, and it's really fun to like be a part of that and see the spark that these younger homies have, and you can relate with them so well because it's like the same spark that I have and the same spark that everybody there has. They're there because you love to ski, and so everybody just shares this kind of innate bond through that. Whether you're the older generation or the younger generation. So it's pretty cool. It's really cool. You would have loved to see it, like watching Keegan ski around all week. You would have thought that Keegan was trying to win Super Unknown. He was skiing so good.
Dude, he's seems like he only has one speed. Like
Yep.
I was seeing shots of him. He won the level 1 rail jam in Bear,
Hmm.
and there's shots of him going so fast and so hard, and there's also bail shots where you'd swear he broke ribs, and you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
dude, you're going.
Yeah, that clip's gnarly. Yeah, he's on. When he's skiing, he's on. Yeah, it's sick. It's cool to see. And it helps me pick up my energy too, you know, and I know a lot of other people feel the same way. You see another homie crushing that's like your age, and you're like, all right, yeah, let's get it.
What was your vibe park wise? Because in the years, last couple seasons, we've really seen you make more of a push towards the backcountry side of things.
Hmm.
How was it to get into a park? Should you still ride park at all, or because we got to know you as a park skier that crushes it on rails and jumps. How is it to go back to your first love?
It was great. It was awesome. I've never really stopped skiing park. I don't ski park as often as I used to. I used to ski park multiple days a week, and you know how it is once you're filming and you're on the road. It's not like you can just like take a couple days during the week and go ski park. So I skied less park than I used to, but at the beginning and the end of the season, I still do a lot. So yeah, it felt so good. It was so good to get back in the park and just ski and have fun. But also, it showed me how that I have been skiing less park because I was pretty sore. You know, I was feeling pretty beat up at the end of every day. But in my defense, so was all the young kids. So
I wouldn't think that you would be that sore because to me, the type of powder skiing that you do requires to be really fit. So,
mhm.
in what sense were you sore?
Yeah, it does require you to be fit, but it's a different way in the sense that like if you're going out in the backcountry on your snowmobile, and then even if you're stopping in your zone and then you're touring up the mountain, you know, you might only tour up like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times max and ski something. So you're not actually skiing that much. And yeah, you're touring up, but that's not like super fast paced, you know, it's not like your heart rate's up the whole time. And then when you go ski park, you're like skiing pretty hard, you know, and for 5 hours straight. And so it's just a lot more time on your skis with a lot of impacts. Like you're hitting the jumps every run, you're trying tricks. So just the intensity is more, I think, and that's why.
Yeah, I feel you. You're with the spring vibe, with the homies and all. It's like fast laps for 6 hours straight. I don't know how many laps you get. You probably got like 30 laps in a day, maybe more.
Yeah, yeah, we were all trying to add it up. It's probably something like that. It was cool, man. It was cool. Plus, Connor Smith had like set everybody up in rooms. We were staying in these like condo style rooms that could sleep up to 6 people, and he just mixed everyone up randomly. So you're staying with random homies. So it was cool. I was rooming with Easy Panda and Remco, which was sick. I'd never met either of those dudes, and so it was fun to get to know them and be roomies. But every day at the end of the day, we get back to our crib and we're like, oh my gosh, I feel so freaking beat up. And we all just are laying on the floor like drooling because we're so tired. So that was like every day. We were sleeping like 10 hours a night.
But that's such a good idea from Connor of mixing everyone. It reminds me of teachers in back in school that were like, "Hey, you're not going to go with your friend for that project. I'm going to mix up the teams."
Yeah, totally. It was cool. Yeah, it created some new bonds, you know, for sure. And that's pretty sick. I think it's cool. It's one of the special things about skiing is the community. And any event that brings the community together is really important, I think.
Big ups to Level One for putting that together. You mentioned Easy Panda. He
Hmm.
had one of my favorite shots of all the ones that came out. The backcountry parking lot line.
Oh yeah.
Were you there when that happened?
I was, yeah, yeah. I took a photo of that on my film camera, so that should come out sometime. But yeah, that was pretty sick. We had been talking about doing that every day, and then it was the last day that I think I don't know who led the charge with it. Probably Parker or something, because every day Parker would drive and everyone would just pile in the back of his truck, and so he stopped. And everyone's got their boots on, so they just hiked up this like 50-foot tall snow pile. Yeah, it was pretty epic. It was cool energy, and Easy crushed it. He's such a intense dude, you know. It's cool. He's got the energy all the time. It's pretty sick.
Mammoth had a really insane year snow wise. You know, there were some comps that were canceled at some point because there was too much snow falling down. Um, was that little, I don't know how you would call it, the big mountain parking lot line? Was that something that would usually be there, or that was a byproduct of that insane season?
Yeah, that was a byproduct of the crazy snow season for sure. It usually wouldn't be there. I mean, maybe some crazy winters midwinter, but usually not in late April. So it was, and the snow had already been melting for at least a week or 2 weeks by the time we got there because it had been warm. So the fact that all the snowbanks were that big was pretty crazy.
And did you notice it on the hill when you were actually skiing outside of the park? Like how much of a difference it is right now in Mammoth versus the other seasons?
Yeah, I could tell for sure. Yeah, it was crazy. Like all the rocks and cliffs you're used to seeing are just totally buried. But actually, the best thing that made me notice it is so I was lapping with Josh Bishop one day. Um, you know of him, I'm sure, legend.
For people who are not aware, previous Armada team manager, now Monster Energy team manager.
Yeah, so we were lapping one day. We're riding up the chair, and there's this water tank, like a huge water tank over on the right side that's totally buried. And he's like, I don't remember who we're on the chair with, but he's like, "Do you guys remember the water tank shot from Happy Days?" I didn't remember it, but he just pulled it up on his phone, and it's a shot of somebody doing this wall ride on this water tank, and it's like 30 or 40 feet high, and the water tank was fully buried with snow. It was you could only just see the top of it. So that was pretty crazy. That kind of showed how much snow there still was. That tank was just totally buried. So pretty wild. Also cool to see Josh Bishop's ski knowledge in person. He knows what's up. He's got all the memories. It's cool.
And now it's time for another sponsor break. Decans is a family owned fast food restaurant chain with 12 locations in the Montreal region. Close to 70 years after opening their first restaurant on Montreal's Boulevard Pineuf, Decans is still focused on what matters, the same great menu with great food made with quality ingredients. I've said it, I'm a Decans super fan, and many people ask me what's my go to. I have to say it's their famous Wally burger, a double cheeseburger with slices of pepperoni. It's so good. Decans is now selling their sauce in their restaurants and in many Metro grocery stores throughout Quebec. Plus, they've put a bunch of great recipes to go along with it on their website at decansauce.com. Also, big news, their Saint Jérôme location is reopened. Same location, brand new building. Go check them out when you pass by Saint Jérôme. Support companies who support skiing, support Decans restaurants. Last thing about Superunknown that I was curious. For Superunknown, how did it all go down regarding choosing the winner? Was it still something that only the finalists were involved in, or were also the other participants like you? Were you in the process of choosing the winner?
Yeah, so everybody that was involved actually voted this year on the finalist winner, which was pretty cool. That was a big change from previous years where just the athletes would vote. So all of the other skiers that were there voted and the media crew voted too. So pretty crazy. Yeah, I was really curious to see how that affected the results because they also recorded like who would have been the winner if just the athletes had voted and they hadn't counted everybody else's votes. And I think there was uh, potentially a different winner. I won't say because I'm not sure, but yeah, just interesting to note. But yeah, the media crew actually made an edit like of all the finalists' best 3 minutes of footage and made an edit for everyone to watch on the last night, and we all voted based on that, and then also what we had seen throughout the week.
That's a good idea to put all that together because that was my next question is like how do you even handle voting and judging when there's that many people and you might be lapping while someone is doing a banger that you don't even see, and
Oh yeah.
but it's good to have that video review. I think that's what Jib League also did, where Jib
Yeah.
League this season was voted by riders, and what they did was like at the end of each day they go to a bar or whatever and they all watch the footage together.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's sick to see what Ghibli's doing. Yeah, that makes a big difference because you can't pay attention to everything. Like you see a lot of stuff go down, but you might only see a third of it. So yeah, in the video review, it was like most of the shots in that were stuff I didn't see in person. So it was really useful. I think without that video, it wouldn't have been smart to have everybody vote. I think it should have just been the athletes. But with the video, I think it made it a good call to have everybody vote. I think it's a fun mix up in comparison with other super unknowns.
I'm looking forward to see all that footage.
Yeah, me too. I'm hyped. Yeah, level one's busy because they're sharing everyone's shots with all of us too. So they have like 65 people they have to send a transfer to with 100 clips. So that's a big undertaking in itself.
Yeah, well, their strategy is on point because then when you guys have access to that footage, then you're gonna do edits or you're gonna post it on your social media, and then that's a big win when they sell it back to Mammoth or whatever resort when they plug all the exposure that comes from that.
Yeah, totally, big time. Yeah, hopefully Mammoth is hyped and wants to do it again next year. I think that's a good place to have an event like that.
It's the dream. I think maybe that can lead us into your super unknown because I was we've talked about right now, and I want to talk about your current season, but I also wanted to go back into young Jonah
Mm,
because I mentioned it before we started recording, but you're a guy that popped out of nowhere for me. Like I remember first time I saw you, it was maybe a hood edit around 2014
mm.
with your Solomon skis crushing the park, totally destroying it, and I was like, I don't know who's that kid, but he's sick. Like, okay, Jonah Williams, duly noted. You were already riding with like uh grown man style. Like sometimes kids
Yeah.
kids get their technicality or their technical tricks, but it takes a couple years to grow into their style.
Hmm.
But you were already ready for that, and then what is it? After that summer edit, maybe 7 months later, you do Super Unknown, and I was like, oh yeah, well that guy's gonna win it. Maybe that was quick of me, but like I wasn't surprised when you made finals, and I wasn't surprised when you won it. But what's the Jonah story? What's your background before coming in that season? On a hot streak, like because there's some guys that we really see on the come up for years, getting better and better. You're someone that really stood out of nowhere for me.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I appreciate you saying that. I think one of the reasons it probably seemed like I came out of nowhere was because I grew up skiing in Utah where there's so many other good skiers, so it's a pretty saturated
Mm,
field, and it's a little harder to stand out, I think, because you have like 4x9 crew is here, for example, at that time, and they're like crushing it. And so coming in as an amateur and being noticed isn't exactly easy. Um, well, I don't know. It's being noticed maybe doesn't happen as easy, but it's easier to get good at skiing because you have so many people to look up to around you all the time. So I was pretty lucky to be in a place like that. But
you're riding, and every day you can come up to a pro. So there's an inspiring factor there that you always see that it is a real thing. It's a real human versus some places where you might never come across a pro in your life.
yeah, oh totally. And that didn't really happen to me till I was like 16 and or 15, and I had some friends who were older than me who could drive, and we that's when we would start going making these trips to Park City, and we would see like Tom Walsh and Steve Stepp and Tyler Barnes skiing in person. And that's when I realized, like, okay, like these guys are just out here skiing and being good skiers. Like, I can do this. That was the first time when it really made sense in my head that if I just did what they were doing, then maybe I could make it. And so, yeah, it's super motivating to see that. And I was real motivated anyway. I just wanted to be, a really good skier. So, yeah, just started from that. But also, maybe I came on the scene so randomly to some viewers because I didn't put out much content. I didn't really care about it. I just wanted to ski and be a better skier, and I was really self-critical in my shots too. So like I'd get shots, maybe I could make an edit and I'd be like, nah, this isn't going to be that good. I'm not going to post it.
And now it's time for another sponsor break. Access Board Shop has been dedicated to free skiing since its inception in 2002. At a time when some people and brands were still looking down on free skiing, Access believed in it fully. After 20 years of supporting athletes, movies, competitions, events, and so much more, Access is still going strong. Above all, Access is a ski shop where you'll find everything you need for skiing, snowboarding, or skateboarding. Check them out in store in Saint-Sauveur or online at accessboutique.com. Support companies who support skiing. Support Access Board Shop. I feel like that's a big problem that many skiers have.
Oh
Like
yeah.
even Henrik, when we did an episode together, was saying that like that he has some edits that are made and that he feels are special that are sitting on his YouTube on like private mode, and that we were talking about that, and you know, not posting certain stuff because just tiny details that you guys see, and I'm always like, you guys are harsh on yourself. Like people would just enjoy them for what they are,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess it's something that a lot of people have in common of being really critical of themselves.
Yeah, you're so right. And that's one of the ways that you're able to get so good at a thing is being so critical of yourself because it allows you to to progress because you can see these little things that you could change and get better at. But you can't be too harsh. I mean, you got to find a balance with it because you can be too harsh and then you don't ever post anything and no one ever notices you and you never get sponsored. And maybe you don't care about that and that's fine, but yeah, it goes both ways. You got to be self-critical but not too self-critical.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because if you want to get noticed and if you want to get sponsored, well, there's a point where you're not helping yourself if you're not just not posting at all. At some point, you need to help yourself also,
Yeah.
and just deal with whatever you got as a shot. Just post it and not overthink it, I guess.
Yeah, it's so true. You got to put yourself out there, and that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're skiing around Park City and you're watching 4x9 edits all the time and you're like, I can't post an edit until it's as good as a 4x9 edit. That's maybe never going to happen. You're going to have to just post some stuff in the meantime anyway.
Is that what happened when you got your edits that I'm referring to from Hood? That you were maybe with the Windell's filmer, I'm guessing, but maybe
Hmm.
you were with the Windell's filmers
Yeah.
that were like, "Hey, you're really good. Well, let's make an edit," and then it was like out of your hands, like they were the ones promoting you.
Well, yeah, sort of. That's the cool thing about what Wendell's was for a young skiers and snowboarders because like we were just working there, but then the media crew is just posted up all throughout the park filming everybody. So anybody who's killing it, they're just going to be filming you. And so naturally, I would get shots from that, and then the shots would be in the Wendell's videos, because they would post a session edit. And then maybe I'd see some comments from that saying, like, oh my gosh, that Jonah kid is crushing it. And that gave me a lot of confidence in my skiing and in my shots. I was like, oh, okay. Like people do like to watch this. Like maybe I should make an edit. I actually wasn't going to make a Superunknown edit because I didn't have any street or backcountry clips. They were all just those summer park shots. But Sandy Boville is the one who was like, dude, you should make a Superunknown edit. And it was like 2 days before the deadline. So I was like, okay, I'll make one. So I just made one real quick with those summer shots, and that's what got me in.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing because if you go back, Sandy made Super Unknown back in well, he made the Super Unknown finals back in 2013,
Hmm.
and his was a lot of stuff from street skiing, park shoots, and all of that.
Yeah,
And your edit was like 80% Mount Hood, but
yeah.
then it was the type of edit, as I was saying, that you can't overlook because it's just too good.
And I'm really grateful that it was good because I remember seeing some comments on that of kids that were complaining, when I got chosen as a finalist, kids that were like, "Oh, his edit wasn't even actual shots; it's all park shots," and that made me even more self-critical. I was like, "Oh, they're right. Like this is why I didn't want to make one." But then it felt good to be recognized even through just park skiing. I think that's a really special thing because there's a ton of kids out there that just ski park and they deserve to be recognized too. And sometimes you don't step into the backcountry or the street filming until much later in your life. And so or maybe you don't have the means to go get a street shot.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that Level One has always been pushing in the past years is trying to have stuff that makes you stand out, being, backcountry or street or whatever. But at some point, like you just said, if you only have park, but you have really a style that stands out and a trick selection and whatever it may be, then if you're special, you're special. Like I think it was Sam Lobinski last year that made finals and only had like park shots in the Midwest, but like his edit was so sick that I saw it and I was like, yeah, that's a finalist right there.
Yeah, totally. That's what it's all about. It's about having like that unique flavor and having people notice that, you know. Or not that, I mean, I don't think I had a unique flavor. I was just pretty technical, and I think that's maybe what did it for me, but
There was the grown man style.
yeah, yeah, true. Technical grown man style. Yeah. I was always just trying to ski like Wallish when I was younger. That's probably what helped me big time. Just would watch Wallish like he was the only person that existed.
What's the your takeaway from the wild wallish style? Because for a long time it was afterbang.
Mhm.
Um, that really was his branding.
Mhm.
But to me, I think it's a lot of like hands in the pockets. Like he'll do a 2 on press 4, but there's no arm waving or anything.
Mhm.
It's like hands in the pocket from start to finish. And then landings that even without the afterbang, it's landings where it's as if the trick continues. You know, his switched up 10 Japans where
Mm.
he finishes his corks and he's riding out and there's no impact.
It's so nice. Yeah. Yeah, the takeaways for me that I think of are one, landings with your feet together. That's like a big thing that Wallish he really stood out in that way that all of his shots maybe like you'd watch five skiers do a dub 12, but Wallish would land with his feet, like with his boots touching, his feet were so close together. And I thought that was so steezy. That, and then, yeah, the hands in pockets, which was hard for me because I'm like a tall, lanky guy, you know, and if I flail, like you really see it, my arm's so long. So I would always try and be like, how does he do it? But
How tall are you?
I'm 6'2".
Okay, yeah, tall guy. So yeah, you mentioned riding a lot of at Park City, getting better. Your home resort is Powder Mountain.
Yep.
What was the upbringing for you? What was it? Any racing? Any moguls? What was the upbringing like for you, getting from a young kid to where we were talking about teen years, getting into a lot of park skiing?
Yeah, no, I never raced, never did moguls. So I call Powder Mountain my home resort, but actually, uh, I didn't even ski Powder Mountain a lot until I was like 14 or 15. Younger than that, I really grew up skiing this little mountain called Nordic Valley. It's almost like an East Coast hill in Utah. There's just two chairs.
Okay.
It's really small, maybe less than 1,000 foot vert, and but there's a ton of like cat tracks and little trails through the woods, and we had a little park, usually maybe one bad jump, and then some rails that were set up pretty bad, maybe one rail set up nicely, uh, like once throughout the season. So that's kind of where I grew up with it, and is a big reason why I was able to get good at skiing because it was really close to where I lived and it was really small. And so it was almost like my parents treated it like a daycare because all of the kids in the surrounding neighborhoods, their parents did the same. All our parents would kind of drop us off if they were going on a date or if they were going to work and it was not a school day, they would just drop us off at the ski hill because they didn't have to watch us. And so we would just be at the ski hill all day long with our friends, following our friends around. And so naturally, that's where the progression came from, was just, uh, young kids pushing themselves and wanting to be better than your buddy, or maybe my little brother, Jordan, he did a backflip before I did. And I remember being like, what? You did a backflip? Like, God, now I got to do a backflip. And so that's kind of how it all started. Just a bunch of little homies skiing around.
And there's so many pros that have that story. I feel like as much as there's pros that come from a racing background or a mogul background, there's also a lot that come from that independent type of skiing where parents drop you off and there's a lot of time to just become a great skier at your own pace, kind of with your own, going into whatever you feel like, whether it's going to the park or going to other stuff, and you just ski super often and become good in a natural way, no coaching, no programs, just on your own.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that that can happen, and I'm glad that that's how it happened for me. The mountain little hill that we grew up at it was pretty steep. It wasn't long, but it was steep, and there was a lot of weird like jumps and playful terrain in the trees before the park. So I think that's how we were able to just get good, is that the terrain allowed us to be good because we would just chase each other around real fast, in the trees, and just got good at edge control. But yeah, none of us ever did a race or anything like that.
Yeah, you made me think of something. I did some racing, but I think the most intense type of skiing I used to do was, as you were saying, with my brother. After racing, like at night skiing or whatever, we
Uh-huh.
would play like follow the leader,
Oh
where
yeah.
it was like one has to follow the other, and the other can go wherever in the
Yeah.
woods, straight off, whatever, and you got to be able to keep up. And dude, that's intense when you're the one following. You don't know where it's headed, and it's like it's good training for you for your whole skiing.
Oh yeah, it's so true. Yeah, that was a huge part of my skiing growing up. That's exactly what we did. It was like we'd be four, five, six little homies, and we'd all just take turns playing follow the leader. Be like, oh yeah, check out where I can go, check out this gap. And everyone's just following each other over this like little 20-foot gap or something. And yeah, you definitely get good at skiing through that. It's pretty cool. There's a cool sense of camaraderie too that you get.
Dude, when you were talking about going to Superunknown this year and still feeling like a kid, I had that a couple weeks ago, where like me and my brother are in our 30s now, and we went spring skiing, and we went to that again, like naturally, like, hey, I'm gonna go do a line, trying to follow me. And it's like something that stays with us forever, I feel like.
That's amazing. I still do that too. That's some of my favorite stuff to do. Like even being at Super Unknown, following Chris Logan or Keegan through the park, because you get inspiration from that too. Maybe you're feeling a little tired or a little dull. You don't know what to do because you've been hitting the same features all day. But then you follow some new homie who's skiing good, and all of a sudden you got your juice back. Yeah, it's pretty special.
And I think, even aside from the actual games themselves, just doing a slush game with a homie for fun is
Mm,
one of the best things you can do to just change up your vibe. Because without noticing it, we all kind of revert always back to the same tricks we like to do and we're comfortable with.
hmm
But then, whenever you play a slush game with one homie, everyone has different things they like or they're comfortable with. So they'll always like make you do something you're not comfortable with, and then you end up learning something. And
hmm
uh, to me, that's something I always revert back to just for fun. Is like, hey, let's do a slush game just for the fun of like throwing tricks around.
Yeah. It's cool when you do that because you can really surprise yourself too with something that you never would even try, and your friend does it, and you think, okay, I'll try. Maybe I can do it. And then you do it, sometimes first try, and you're like, what the heck? Like, I didn't know I could do that. That's the best. That's such a cool feeling to have.
Did that ever happen to you, or do you remember? Because you did a lot of slush games. I was looking back at your history with your history of games. Through the years, you have games with Keegan, with LJ, with uh, Colby Stevenson, Lupe.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a lot of games.
Wacko, I played once, Wacko Wells. Yeah, yeah. I used to do a bunch of slush games. And I mean, at the time, I was still like coming onto the scene, and I really looked up to Josh Christensen and Matt Walker. Matt was running a lot of the games at that time, if I remember right. And I really looked up to him. So anything that he asked, he was like, "Yo, you want to do a slush game?" I was like, "Yes, I do." I would do anything to just like be in some sort of video. So I looked at it that way. But plus, it was super fun. But yeah, I experienced a lot of that because I was still like coming into my own as a skier, and what my bag of tricks was. And so it was a cool time to be able to play all these different people. Like Lupe, I played him, and I never had done like a 50-50 on a rail at that time. And Lupe is all into like switch on 50-50,
Yeah.
backside 180 out of a rail and stuff. And I'm like, what the heck?
And did that go well?
I don't remember if I got that or not. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, some did and some didn't, like any game goes. But yeah, yeah, I did. I have played a lot of slush games. It's funny. It's funny to think back on. Sometimes I forget, and then I'll see like some little cousins watching some videos of me on YouTube, and I'm like, I didn't even I don't even remember that. It's so funny. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's something I think I was talking about it with Quinn Wolferman, how much these videos have so much views.
Mm,
Like, you don't think about that necessarily, but for a lot of people, that's where they get to know you.
Mm,
I'm looking at it right now. You have a game with LJ that's close to 200,000 views.
that's so crazy. Yeah, that game at Park City. That I actually rewatched that somewhat recently, and I kind of kick myself like, oh, LJ beat me. I could beat him now. But I think that in my head because I'm competitive. But LJ would probably still whoop my butt. He's so good. He's the man.
There's something special about these guys like LJ that I feel like you'd do a slush game with LJ at 45 and he'd still be a rail god.
Oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
LJ, and recently there was Andreas Hodveit who won Unrealistic, and
Yeah,
he's like
yeah.
36 now with like one of the illest run I've ever seen.
So sick, right? It's so cool to see him do that. I saw the funniest meme the other day about like right after that happened, and it was something like Jesper does an event, and then it's like the I feel like a boomer trying to explain a meme. I'm not even gonna try, but anyway, the end was just like Andreas Hotfight wins a freaking event that Jesper invited all these pros to with all the unrealistic rails, and yeah, it was just so sick. That was really cool to see. Andreas is a legend, dude.
Yeah, man, I grew up watching his stuff. When he retired, I kind of understood his move, like family wise and all, but he was still on top. Like he retired after 2014 and like he still won an X Games medal that year and still I think he finished fourth at Sochi. So like he was still there if he wanted to.
Oh yeah, yeah, super talented dude. Goes to show. It's cool to see how much he's still got it even now. Because I never really see videos of him skiing. I hadn't thought about him much recently, or thought that he even still skis or trains at all. But then seeing him, I'm like, did he just take a huge break and come back and win that, or is he still skiing a lot? I don't know. He must be.
Well, there's those TGP edits that he
Hmm.
puts out throughout the years that are always like some of the most banger videos ever. But
Yeah, I feel like those put Oystein and Bendik on the scene too back in the day.
yeah,
Remember?
it takes a special kind of guy. Like I think him and LJ must be similar energy wise because he's grown. He has a wife. He has many kids. I don't know how many, maybe 3 kids.
Hmm.
He works, and then okay, on his Saturday, he's not sleeping. He's like building a park and doing flip-ons.
Yeah. It's so funny. I hope that he just keeps doing that. It'd be so funny to be like a 15-year-old kid and your dad's doing like a cork nine onto a rail. I remember reading an interview in Free Skier Mag, I think that Wallish did forever ago, and he was like, "Yeah, I want to be that 55-year-old dad who can do a dub 10 in front of my kids in the park." And I always thought that was cool. I was like, man, that'd be pretty sick.
Aside from all that branch off we did, um, we talked about you uh, getting that invite, making a super unknown, even though you weren't really sure about doing one, and then I think it's always cool to go back to those years of super unknown to just look back on who was there and you know how did they progress in skiing. Because you went, you won, and you're here today, and we're talking. But the finalists in Super Unknown 12 included Ben Smith, Ethan
Hmm.
Swadberg, who
Hmm.
have done a lot of great filming in the past years. There was Dylan Siggers, who's also super present still nowadays.
Hmm.
Funny things I noticed: Jeff Lovelace, who was a super good skier, who's now a coach
Yeah,
for the Canadian freestyle team.
yeah, yeah.
And you know who was not even a finalist?
Who?
Nico Porteus.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Did he submit an edit at one point?
Yeah, he was semi-finalist the year that you won.
Oh, he was that year, huh? Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
That's crazy. I should watch that. He was probably like so young then too.
he, yeah, he must have been young. But I think it's always cool to go back and see that there's guys that didn't win that made it in skiing, but there's also sometimes people that only made semifinals. Or I always think it's funny, like Level One posted that at some point that A Hall made an edit, maybe I don't know, years ago, and he didn't even make semifinals. Like he was still a young kid. He had good trick, but his style was still, he was still working on that.
Yeah.
But even A Hall, who was like one of the top skiers in the world, at some point made a super unknown and wasn't even chosen.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's all about timing, like what year you do it and where, because maybe 2 years down the road, A Hawk could have made one and maybe even won Super Unknown, but he was probably just had so much momentum going with contests and stuff that he was already making it theirs and just stuck with that, I would imagine. But that's cool to hear about Nico. Nico's actually coming to the States, I think, to film with Gavin and I here in a couple weeks. So that'll be fun because Gavin's doing a project with me and Nico separately. So we're going to try to collab for a little while out here.
That's dope.
Yep. Show him the car camping life in the States.
There's been some super unknown finals in Sun Valley, in Mammoth, in really like fancy places, I guess you could say. Your
Mm-hmm.
year, it was in Mount Snow.
Mm-hmm.
How was that for a Utah boy going to Mount Snow for a park shoot?
I loved it, man. I thought it was so cool. I was already in love with Oregon, and Vermont really felt like Oregon to me. So it almost, the energy was similar. I felt at home there, even having gone for the first time. Plus, like at the time, Parker White was one of my favorite skiers, and he had grown up skiing that area, and so I was really hyped to see that. And they crushed it. The park was so good. It was so fun. Yeah, I had no second thoughts about it. I thought it was awesome.
What's your memories from that week? Time flies. 8 years ago. Do you have any specific things that come back to mind when you look back on it, except that you won and got the big award?
Yeah, a lot of memories come back. I mean, it was such a fun week. I remember the camaraderie that we had as a group was so good. Like everybody got along really well. We were all really motivated as skiers, so we were trying really hard, of course, to ski well, but we were a part of the process of building these features. A lot of the features were our idea, and we would kind of try to help provide some advice for the cat drivers and stuff. I'm sure sometimes they're like, what are these kids talking about? I know what I'm doing. But that was really cool to be a part of that process for the first time. And I think it was for all of us together. We were experiencing that for the first time. And I mean, you maybe remember Dylan Siggers actually, I don't remember if he broke his ankle or something, or he just sprained it really bad, but he was skiing on one ski the whole week and was hitting every feature with one ski, which was so fun. And you remember Vague? I don't remember how to say his last name, Hogstad or something. Vague Hogstad. He broke his back that week.
Really?
Siggers had like broken his ankle and was skiing on one ski. Of course, Ethan and Benny Smith were there and they were crushing it. But if you remember Alec Nelson, he was there. He's another Utah homie. He's who I actually voted for to win that week because he's who I thought was going to win because he was crushing it so hard. And he still skis, but he's not really like in the scene much anymore. But yeah, I have a lot of memories from that. It was a special time in my life and a dream come true to even get invited there, let alone to win. And it did kind of catapult my popularity in skiing, which led to some cool opportunities down the road. So yeah, super, super nostalgic to rethink that.
And how was it for you guys as the week goes by, knowing that at the end of the week you'll be voting? Like, was there some talks in between you guys that like, if we'd vote right now, I think it'd be you, or were you guys all like shy about it, keeping it for yourself?
We for sure would talk about it a little bit, but I think people would say like, oh yeah, I think like you're gonna win, and you'd be like, no, no, like. So yeah, there was some of both for sure. You like want to talk about it, but you also kind of just want to keep it hush hush. You don't want to jinx anything, or I don't know. It was definitely weird. We're all just young guys, and excited and nervous, and so yeah, all that comes into play.
That's you made me think of a good thing. Um, that's a big thing. I feel like in skiing, the whole jinxing thing, or like
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to
Yeah,
call, you
your
don't want
last
to
run.
call last run,
Yeah, two minus
or
one.
it's bad luck. When I'm filming, I don't like to call a trick. Like if we get to a spot, I don't like to call a trick that would be sick because it feels like if we call it, then it's not going to happen. I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of jinxing that goes on.
Oh yeah, totally. It's totally a thing. And whether it's superstitious or not, like if it's something that's in your head, I think it's probably relevant and something to pay attention to. I still say 2 minus 1, and it's just habit. I don't even feel like I'm superstitious about it. But like the whole trick calling thing too, when you're filming, that's a big thing. Because like if you, when you're hitting, say, a jump in the backcountry, you have maybe your dream trick on that feature that you want to do, and then maybe it's like a corked 9, and then you end up hitting the jump and you're like, okay, maybe I can get a shot just doing a 3 on this. A 9 was a little much.
Hmm.
But anyway, if you get to the point where you're like going to be trying the 9, you don't want to tell people a lot of the time. You want to keep that in your own head. You want it to be a surprise. So I don't know if it's a jinx thing or what it is, but I know a lot of other skiers like that too, where if you're going to try something that's scary, you'd rather just keep it in your head so that nobody knows, so that it's just like there's less pressure that way. But if you're working with a really talented filmer, they want to know what trick you're doing because they're going to be able to get a proper angle that accentuates that trick the best. And so there's a balance with that too, where like I do want to tell them what I'm going to do because I know the shot will be better, but I don't want to tell them
Yeah,
because then there feels like there's more pressure and it's scarier. So yeah, it's totally a big thing in skiing, huh?
I feel you completely for what you were talking about. Your dream trick. I feel like that happens a lot in street where you go to a rail and you'd want to do a dream trick,
Hmm.
but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get that dream trick because that dream trick is too intense or that the rail itself is too hard. Or there's many factors that prevent you from doing it. And a lot of times you have to settle for something less dreamy.
Hmm.
But you're also right that a big thing for me is talking with the skiers and without jinxing ourselves, being like, hey, do we have the same dream trick in mind? Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, we have the same dream. Okay. If
Yeah.
it happens, it happens, but okay, we're on the same page.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good place to be in because then if they land, a trick that's more minor and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's a shot." But then they're just like focused and going back up to hit it again. You don't even have to ask any questions. You just know, what they're going to try or something and you can just prepare for that. So it's nice. That's really cool when you're on the same page as your filmer homie like that. That's pretty special because then you can get those 1 out of 10 shots that are so rare where you get your dream trick and you got a dream clip of it because you guys were just on the same page. And yeah, that's the best feeling in the world, probably.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it working with a skier filmer relationship is you gotta be on the same page and understanding where he's at in terms of
Hmm.
the tricks he wants to try and the approach he has,
Hmm.
so you can adapt as you said. Because there's nothing more disappointing than like the skier getting the trick that he's not gonna get it twice. He gets it once, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not too down with the angle I got.
Yeah.
Because then you want to be stoked for him, but as a filmer, you're like, fuck, man, I wish I had another angle.
Yeah, that's so tough, man. That's the conundrum always. That's why it's so special when you're able to put together a part that you're really proud of, where the filmer's really proud of it and the skier's really proud of it together. That's it's really hard to do. It's so much work and there's, like you said, so many variables, like hundreds of things trying to get in your way. And when you push through and it happens, and a lot of it's luck too, like it's crazy. The universe just has to align to make it happen. And that's what's so special about what we do and why we have so much respect for each other, I think, because everybody gets how much work needs to be put in to to get something good out of it. And that's a cool thing.
And there's definitely a big, as you said, mutual respect that needs to go on because there's some factors that sometimes as a filmer make me want to tell the skier to wait a bit. Like maybe it's just the sun or
Mm,
certain
hmm.
detail about the lighting, but it really bugs me. And I need the skier to be like, yeah, I got you, I'll wait. And
Yeah.
on the same point, sometimes there might be little details about the snow in the in run or whatever, and you need also the filmer to be like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna help you shovel because on both sides there's small details that change everything.
Oh yeah. Totally. Yeah. friendship too. Like you gotta. It helps if you know each other as people and you're comfortable with each other.
Hmm.
You can help each other get that shot better. Like if you're feeling resentful of your homie, or if you're like, oh, Matt Doofy ate my slice of pizza last night, and you're like, you got that in your head or whatever. You're like, you're not gonna be vibing the next day. So yeah, the mental game is such a big part of it, and you gotta support each other. Big thing.
Last year, you dropped two pieces of gold online. One was Life and Stuff, which was a quantity and quality mix unlike I've ever seen before. Dude, there was so much good stuff in there.
Oh, thanks,
And
bro.
then you also add your closing segment with Strictly in
Mhm.
Delete.
Mhm.
You were talking about just a second ago about being proud of what you put out and working hard with your filmer, trying to accomplish that
Mhm.
product that you can be proud of. How did it feel putting out those two videos? Because maybe I'm branching off in my own question, but was Life and Stuff a compilation of the year prior, or was it multiple years?
Yeah, Life and Stuff was a compilation of the year prior to Delete and 3 years before that even. So it was essentially
Okay.
four seasons of footage compiled together. And all that footage had been in their own respective projects. Like the bulk of the shots from Life and Stuff were from August Light that I filmed with Gavin Rudy and Ethan Swadberg. Um, and the all the shots before that were from several years of footage from the Coterie movies that I was making with Jacob Callahan and crew. And they had all been in their own projects, and I had had the chance to release them, all that footage or make my own like video out of it since then. But I I even remember when we were making the Coterie movies with Jacob, I wasn't super proud of my skiing. I'd see my clips in the video and I would just be way too self-critical. Like I'd almost get to a depressed state. I'd be watching my shots and be like, oh, I have so much work to do, and I would
In what sense? Like in terms of style, grabs, tricks,
everything. I was just way
everything.
everything. I was so critical about it, man. It held me back for a while, I think, and until I learned that you can't be too self-critical, and that happened just really in the last few years. I learned to be more confident with my skiing. Part of that is me becoming a better skier, one, and two, being more comfortable and confident with myself as a person. I think when I was being too self-critical in my skiing, a lot of it was just a reflection of me being um, insecure as a person, and I think it just reflected on how I looked at my ski shots because I was unhappy with myself in general. And that's a big thing, in life and in skiing especially, is mental health.
Were you putting like too much pressure on yourself of like, I don't know, maybe becoming a next Wallish, because you grew up, I don't know if we talked about it during the episode or before, but like you and I grew up watching Wallish win Superunknown and become, one of the biggest names in the world. Was there like pressure on yourself, like trying to be too much of a rising star in skiing or something like that?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that. In my head, I wanted to be the best skier in the world. In my head, I was like,
Hmm.
shooting for the moon, and I was looking at it too selfishly, I think, where I was thinking that if I just work really hard as a skier, that I could be the best skier in the world. And so I think because of that, I was too self-critical of myself, and also I was kind of, there's this whole thing where you want people around you to succeed, and the more the people around you are succeeding, the more you will succeed. And I think I was looking at that too selfishly, and I was just focused on myself succeeding, so much so that I wouldn't pay attention to my homies around me enough, and lift them up. And that's just a natural progression of thinking that happens as you get older. And so, anyway, yeah, it felt so good to put out both those videos. I was really proud of my part in Delete. It was really good working with Andrew Mildenberger the whole year on that. It was really hyped to make Life and Stuff, just to put all that footage together. I feel like really showed my progression in skiing throughout the years too, because the shots in the beginning are still good, but I think you can tell when you compare the first like several minutes of footage to the last few minutes, you can see how the progression happened, and that felt really special to do something like that. Felt like it was a video like from my heart that showcased my skiing the way it feels to me when I'm pursuing that. And it was really cool, man, that New Schoolers like awarded me with the New Schoolers Skier of the Year thing, and they said it was for that video more so than my delete part, which was such a surprise to me and was really a cool way to get rewarded for that. I'm super grateful for that.
I can attest as being part of that panel that a big discussion is always like, okay, what are DNS awards? Like, is it the typical award where you reward like an Olympic medal, or do you reward the core free skiing
Mm,
itself? And it's still it's not clearly defined. You know, it's an ongoing thing, and it's
yeah.
still a relatively new awards. But there was the big talk of like there's a hall on one side dominating, but there's also Jonah that just came out swinging with like content that's extremely good and that really stands out. So kudos to you.
Hey, thanks so much, man. It's really cool that New Schoolers is able to have a contest like that. And it can change every year. Like maybe one year you reward a guy like me, and then maybe the next year you reward a guy like A Hall, you know, even with the same award. It's so cool that
Hmm.
you got the creative freedom there. And I think it brings the ski community together even more too, instead of separating like contest guys from film guys, or rising stars from old heads. You know, it brings everyone together and puts everyone on a level playing field. I think that's so cool, man.
Maybe to go back on what you said a couple minutes ago that I think was really interesting is you said you were really hard on yourself, being super critical, and now we flash forward a couple years to today, and you know you're able to enjoy what you put out. What do you think was the factor that changed it, or what made the transition from being able to like now look back on it and being, you know, proud of what you do, or maybe less critical?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't really think that there's one specific moment where it changed. I think it's just like me growing as a person throughout the years has opened my eyes to look at things in, dare I say, a more mature way. So I think maybe I'm doing that now, looking at my skiing in a more realistic light. And I think one of the biggest things actually is that my gratitude and appreciation for life in general has grown, but also for my career, quote unquote, as a skier and the ski community in general. Like I think when I was younger, I didn't appreciate enough how special it is to to be a skier in the ski industry that's recognized. It's such a special thing, like the bond that you create with your peers, the ski community that recognizes you all throughout the world. Like it's amazing, and you get to cooperate with other people, and you get to lift other people up, and they lift you up, and you meet someone from Europe that maybe you've watched their skiing for years and they've watched years and you've never met them, and then you meet in person and you just already have this bond because you look up to each other. It's That's such an amazing thing, and I think it's so rare to experience that in life unless you're involved with something like what we do, like with skiing. And other action sports get that too, I'm sure. But I'm kind of going on a tangent. But I think to answer your question, yeah, it's just I'm just more appreciative now for things and less selfish. And I think that makes the difference.
A big part of what I'm hearing is a change of mindset of you know, looking at the glass half full instead of half empty.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. That's a big part of it. And seeing the bigger picture, you know, instead of just being having this having these walls where you see yourself and you see what you're doing and that's all you see, and you're motivated and you're crushing it, but You're not paying attention to really the bigger picture of what you're involved in, what's going on around you, and how important it is, and how special the experiences you're having are for the rest of your life. And you can edit this out if you want, but probably a big part of it is experiencing like a really intense psychedelic mushroom trip at a young age. Like that's probably a big reason why I think that's a big thing that kickstarted my understanding, as a young man. Those are pretty it's an eye-opening medicine.
And when would you say that was that really teenage years or?
My first experience with that was I was 18 or I was 17 was my first experience with mushrooms, and I had like a very intense spiritual experience. It was really eye-opening. That's where things started. That's where I first started to realize, okay, I kind of just live in my own world and don't pay much attention to anybody outside that. And then, but that's a scary thing to realize too for the first time, because it can also send you down. You can also get a little depressed almost, because if you're already self-critical of yourself, but you're not seeing the bigger picture, and then all of a sudden you become aware of the bigger picture and realize how selfish you might be, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to learn and haven't even started. And that can be pretty daunting thing to grasp. And I think it was for me at the time.
Skiing must have played a big role in that, of like life lessons that help you mature along the way.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. It does. It provides you with, I mean, like I got to travel to these cool places around the world and meet so many other people my age, share these travel experiences with people my age. That's really special. Traveling itself opens your perspective on things, and that's cool. I think I drew a lot of my identity from skiing. And so in my head, I was a skier, and I was a good skier, or a skier trying to be a really good skier, and that's who I was. And outside of that, I don't think I had a clue who I was or what I was doing. And so, yeah, it was those late teen years, early 20s is when I first started to see like, oh, there's much more to life than just skiing, because skiing pretty much was all I thought about from the time I was 12 to like 17 or 18. All I thought about was skiing. All I did was watch ski videos. All I wanted to do was be a better skier. I wasn't thinking at all about who I am as a person or how my actions might affect somebody else. And I think that's a natural path that you have to jump on at some point in your life. Maybe you don't have to, but you can tell when you meet those people that haven't started that journey.
Mm-hmm.
Once I begun that path of kind of figuring out who I was as a person outside of a skier, then I got to really start to see how special these experiences that skiing gave me really were, and how they're really important for character building and all the rest. And that I'm so lucky to have this ski community that has my back. It's not like, I think it's really, of course, depression is really sad and it's relevant, and it's awful when you see someone, especially, well, anyone, but in the ski industry, when you see someone struggling with depression, however rare that might be, maybe because it's not talked about so much, but when you see that happen, it's so sad, because you want to show them like, you're not alone in this. The ski community has your back. Like people care about each other so much, and you see that big time with an event like Superunknown, like where I just was, where I mean, there's people from all throughout the generations, and certain individuals, for example, might just seem like these goofy guys, but then once you really start to meet them and talk to them, you realize how much they care about skiers, other people in general, but especially skiers, because you're involved in the same it's like a mass consciousness almost. Your
Yeah.
love and passion is derived from the same thing. And so you can just bond with people, and everybody's got each other's back. And it's sad when people feel like they're alone, in whatever's going on in their life. So I don't know, maybe that's a message that could be shared more. And I think does get shared more now than it used to when I was a kid. Just that we're all in this together. Skiing's an amazing thing. It's an amazing tool for navigating relationships and kind of finding your identity as a young person. It's I'm just grateful for it. It's really cool. I hope that whole ramble I just went on makes somewhat sense to somebody listening.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It makes me think of Quinn Wolferman,
mm,
who told me about a cabin trip he did with Deviate,
yeah.
and basically they went filming into a cabin in the woods for 6 weeks straight,
Mm,
and he was telling me that was like the best time of his life of just being by himself, or I don't know if it was the best time, but anyways, like precious time of being by himself with his thoughts alone.
mm,
Because like, yes, there's days where they're shoveling or they're filming, but there's also down days where you're just there with yourself, and it's like time that you never have in any other aspects of life. If you're just at home working or doing whatever, you never have like a full day just with your thoughts in the woods and like almost meditating kind of.
yeah, so true. You have to really try to get that experience now, because if you just do what you do every day and you don't take that time, you just get caught up in whatever it is you're busy with. And then when you're not busy, you're on your phone, probably looking at Instagram, and maybe you're just watching other skiers on Instagram, but still you're just caught up in this this social digital world that I think our brains naturally need a break from every now and then. And if we don't give that to ourselves, um, you realize how much you miss it when you get an experience like that when you're out in the woods or in a yurt for 6 weeks. It's
Yeah. Is that something that you've had um, with your backcountry filming? Is that something you can relate to with the side of being alone with yourself?
Yeah, absolutely it is. I've always been fairly comfortable alone with myself, I think, and I've always enjoyed the outdoors. Pretty lucky to grow up in a home where my family valued the outdoors, so we did a lot of camping trips and a lot of just hikes, and it wasn't such a big deal. It was like, "Oh, we're bored, let's go hike around the forest for 2 hours and just look at pine cones." And so it's
Yeah.
something I've always really valued and I don't feel like has ever lacked in my life. And because I had maybe this connection with nature from when I was a kid, I think when I first started backcountry filming, I really was like, oh, this is so cool. I didn't realize how special this is, because it's so much more than me just trying to put in work to film a ski part. It's like I get to learn how to maneuver these mountains in a safe way and work with them and work with people in this pretty sometimes dangerous mountainous environment, and you get a lot of time in your thoughts alone, and super refreshing for me. I think it's awesome, and I think, yeah, it's a big reason why I have such a connection with it and want to keep doing that.
Yeah. And kind of reconnecting with your younger self
Yeah,
that was hiking in the woods.
totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and being able to share that with people, with your friends who maybe grew up and had the same experiences, or didn't and are seeing it for the first time. It's cool. It's a cool thing.
We talked a bit about Delete, but big shout out to the Bio 10 Stale.
Mm,
One of the sickest shots I've seen in a long time in the backcountry.
thanks, bro.
I'm not a big backcountry guy. I'm more the type of guy who used to skip those segments when I was young, I gotta say.
I did too,
But
actually, which is funny. But anyway,
but
continue.
that's a shot that really, as a skier and as a filmer, made me go like, ah, like perfect Bio 10 style in the backcountry, plus with a follow cam, but from the
Mm-hmm.
front.
Mm-hmm.
That's something really rare to see, and probably a shot that's really hard to get.
Yeah.
And the whole timing, kudos, man. That was a good one.
Dude, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was a fun day. That was like we were hitting a jump that's pretty popular. It's been hit a lot and a lot of tricks have been done on it, and we wanted to that was kind of our goal with that day. It was me, Andrew Mildenberger, and Thane Rich out there, and it was in Utah. And we wanted to hit this jump that had been hit so many times and kind of do something different on it. And follow cams had been done on it in the past too, but anyway, we just wanted to try something unique. And so Andrew had this idea of doing this follow cam, which is a big process, because you have to someone has to double up the skier on the snowmobile and then double up the filmer
Yeah.
and then go post up for the bottom angle. So it's a longer turnaround process for each try. And during that process, I kept trying. I actually snapped a pair of skis, and
Fuck.
I snowmobiled all the way back to the trailhead, got another pair of skis, and sledded all the way back out to the zone and kept trying. And so that was pretty fun because it was like we were just like in the battle, really trying to get this shot. And so when it happened, we were so hyped. And it's one of those, some shots you get and you're like, maybe we'll have to just let this one sit for a while and look at it in the summer and maybe we'll like it more. This one was the opposite. We liked it a lot when we saw it, and then we watched it later in the summer and we were like, what? How did we do this? So it was pretty stoked to have that as like the ender shot of the Delete movie.
Getting follow cams like that for such a hard trick is such a commitment, because it's a hard trick for you to get and it's a hard shot for the filmer to get, so it doubles up like the difficulty, because you're not just trying a easy, I don't know, cork 3. You're trying a trick that you won't get every try, I'm guessing. And doing a follow like that and not messing up the shot in the backcountry must be hard, just with the skiing itself for Andrew. A shot like that I have in mind streetwise that is really similar is in Alex Ackel's second reel ski. He does a super long kinky rail where he does a back switch up to end it, and like Payben is following him. Same thing from the front.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, it's definitely a feature that he must have tried 100 times. Well, he told me in an episode we talked about that. Like, he tried it until the sun set, and that means that Payben also hiked that rail 100 times to do the follow cam, and there's so much going into that.
Exactly. It's so, talk about a good duo, man. I love watching anything Payben is doing anyway, but yeah, that's epic. That's crazy. It basically doubles the amount of variables you have that are keeping you from getting your shot. You have so much more going on. So it's extra cool when you get the clip, I bet that felt so good when they got that.
You guys deserve to put that 1080 2 times in the film. It's rare that we see two shots, like a video replay, but that was worth it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we felt the same way. We were like, yeah, we got to just play it again. Worked too hard for that one.
That's something that wasn't really a thing years ago. You'd never see like a shot like being replayed, but I think it's nice when it's worth it to actually say, no, here it is again. Take time to appreciate.
Yeah, I agree. It felt extra good to do that too, because it was such a popular jump that had been hit so many times. To be able to put a shot on that jump, played twice as the ender of our movie, just felt so good. Stuff makes it all worth it. So rewarding.
Yeah, and I was curious, how was it filming with the Strictly boys? Because it's really clear to me, like, the street part of the crew is like Sam and Pete and Calvin and all those boys go in the street, with the van themselves. How is it on the backcountry side with you guys? Is it kind of the same thing where you're all a group together for weeks on end and you get it done? Or how was it getting that part done? Because it's a lot of work getting a full segment in the backcountry like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it is like that. Like we're on the road for weeks at a time. Like for filming for Delete, I had basically committed my whole season to just filming for the movie. And so me and Andrew Mildenberger were on the road, at least just the two of us, throughout the entire winter. And most of the time Thane Rich was with us. And then there would be trips where like Benny Smith joined, or Parker Norville joined, or Levi Asher joined, just for like 1 or 2 trips, where you're with like that crew for a week or 2 weeks, depending on snow conditions. And then if it storms somewhere else, me and Andrew would hit the road, and either, say Levi's with us, he would either come with us, or maybe he's got to get back to work, so he'd go back to work. But yeah, it's the hard thing because everyone's got their own stuff going on. Some people are busy working and can't be on the road all year. Everyone lives in different locations anyway. So yeah, a lot of travel goes into it, you know.
Where was most of it filmed? Was it
Um,
all across the U.S.? Was it mostly in Colorado, Utah, or?
it was mostly in the northwestern U.S. None in Colorado. We tried to film something in Colorado, but storm came in, didn't work out. Bad storm. It was mostly filmed in Idaho, Montana, some in Wyoming, some in Utah, some in Washington too. One shot actually, or two shots in Washington.
It must have been so fulfilling when you won the Skier of the Year award, because, as you were saying, dedicating your whole winter to that project is a big task, and it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it. And really, as much as you're a good skier and Andrew's a great filmer, there's never really any guarantees with that. Like, you might get hurt, you might not get lucky with some shots, you might get shitty weather. So to come off and have that segment and win that award must have been so sick.
Thanks, man. It was. It felt so good. It was really rewarding. I was really proud of it. I was kind of hoping to get like an IF3 award or something when that came around, and didn't get anything from my segment, and I didn't think much of it. But it was super rewarding. The New Schoolers Skier of the Year thing. It was funny because when they posted the nominees for Skier of the Year, everyone's shots were from projects from that past season, but all my shots that they shared with me were from all old stuff that was from Life and stuff. So I messaged whoever was running the New Schoolers account at the time and was like, "Yo, just a heads up, like all these shots are from August Light, which is 2 years ago. Like my shots from Delete, are in Delete's movie, so these are actually older. So I don't know if this counts." And they were just like, "Oh no, we know we're doing that on purpose. You're actually nominated for Life and stuff and Delete, but
Mm.
the combination of the two." And that was like emotional to hear. Actually, it was such a rewarding feeling. Like I felt super recognized, and yeah, it was really special. Felt so good. One of the best feelings ever.
Yeah, man. Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Yeah, I
Appreciate
think
it.
a big part for the awards is, at some point you got to have like a timeline tracking of what's acceptable, or what actually goes in. And I think what they do is, like, let's say your awards was for the 2022 year.
Hmm.
Well, it doesn't matter when the shot was filmed. It's more like what content dropped from January 1st
Mm,
until December of that year. So
totally.
since your Life and stuff was in 2022, then there was that with the bunch a year prior where they dropped Is There Time for Matching Socks in January.
Hmm.
So then it was kind of a contestant for, well, even though it was filmed in the year prior, it was a contestant for the year after, just because it was, the moment it was released.
Mm,
Anyways.
yeah, that's so cool. I love that that's the way it is. Didn't know that before. Obviously, I do now. But
Yeah.
by the way, yeah, No Time for Matching Socks is a masterpiece.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to see what the bunch has done, right? Because they were like getting some hate right in the beginning. Everyone was like, "What are these swerve skiers doing?" And now they're just putting out the best stuff. Like some of the most beautifully done movies and parts ever. It's pretty cool.
A lot of evolution in the skiing side, also in the
Hmm.
filmmaking side. If you go and see Far Out, it's two worlds apart. Like
Totally.
Far Out, I think Far Out was their first movie, maybe around 2012. And dude, in a filmmaking sense, dude, it's insane how much they matured. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, man, congrats to them, because even it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, their latest one, but still I can appreciate the quality and the effort that goes into that, and the insane skiing that there is in there.
Yeah, I agree. I love that they value like the visual perception of the shots and the art of it just as much as the skiing. I think they have a good balance of
Hmm.
that. It's really cool to see because you see a lot of projects that are one or the other. Maybe it's just beautifully filmed and edited, and the skiing's maybe not so good, or maybe just the shots don't showcase the skiing very well. And you see the opposite too, where the skiing's like amazing, but filming and editing just doesn't do it justice. So I think they've kind of figured out that balance. I think it's cool to see. I know a lot of young crews look up to them too, and that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I can definitely say as a filmer, it's super inspiring to see guys like that have been in skiing for years and that still manage to find new ways to film stuff and present skiing.
Hmm.
It really takes something special to think outside the box, especially when you've been inside the box for so long. Inside the box meaning inside of skiing.
Hmm.
At some point, it's easy to go back to some things you already did or that you're comfortable with, but to push yourself and find new ways to present it is super sick.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, there's been so much done in skiing now, so many different projects. It's like, how could you be creative and do something new? But every year there's new creative stuff, and it's cool when you see something that's a surprise and you're like, oh, I've never seen that before. That's that's the beauty of it.
We're getting onto the end of the episode. One thing that I really wanted to talk to you about before we end off is there was some big news with you last summer.
Mm.
There was an announcement that you signed with Rossignol. Um, Congrats on that. Congrats on the big move because it was really cool to see you signing on, and it also came with an announcement that you would work on a full year long movie project.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Really appreciate that. I am stoked on the move, that's for sure. I uh, have nothing against Atomic. I love the skis, and it was cool working with that brand. But I felt like I was stepping up in the content that I was putting out, and what my value was as a skier. And I just didn't think Atomic was matching that. And Rossignol saw that and wanted to match it and stepped up, and so stoked to make that happen, and stoked to be filming a solo project with Level One. That's got its challenges in itself, just filming a solo project. But yeah, hyped on the move. Rossi's got my back, and it feels good. It feels like a really good brand to be with. And obviously the people that are on Rossignol and have been for years are skiers I've looked up to forever. And so really stoked to be a part of the program. Yeah.
Right now, we're at the end of the season. I think you're mostly done with filming. Maybe still have some stuff that you want to get done. What can you tell us about the project? How it maybe from the beginning of like planning it until now, how it went? I've seen some posts of you going to Japan, I think, but
Hmm.
other than that, we haven't seen much. It's still pretty secretive.
Hmm. Yeah. I feel good about it. I'm stoked. I was able to stay healthy for the most part, besides like some minor small injuries. So that feels really good. Got some shots that I'm proud of so far as I remember. I haven't seen all my shots in one place, and so I don't really have a good grasp on what it will be, which I like. I like to just like do that when it comes time to get in the editing booth. One thing I do know is that it'll be a lot different from how my skiing's been viewed in the past few years, where my parts are largely jumps. I'll have like some hits and some small lines, but mostly jumps and tricks. And this year, it's kind of the opposite. It's mostly natural features, so not as many tricks. Um, yeah, natural features, some lines, but a lot of natty hits. I do have a lot of shots, but it feels different because I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have like a right nine or a left nine or a, both way sevens or whatever. So it's like the way that I look at the shots is different, even though they might be still just as banger as maybe a left nine. It won't be a left nine. So I'm curious to see how it comes together.
It's more real skiing on real mountains with real snow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The words of our great and fearless leader.
But was there any that's the street filmer, street lover in me that talks. Was there any thinking of you of maybe going back and doing some street trips for that?
There was thoughts of it, you know. So I'm making this project with Gavin Rudy, and he loves the streets and filming the streets, and he really wanted me to get in the streets for the project. And I was open to it, but the only real opportunities we had was right at the beginning of the season, and I wasn't quite comfortable on my skis again yet, because you need that. You got that buffer time at the beginning of the year, before you feel comfy. and I just didn't feel comfy, and I didn't want to step into the streets and like get hurt. I just wasn't feeling confident yet, so we never did. But it could happen in the future. Never know.
And especially put the big season plans that you have ahead of you in jeopardy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did feel like I had a little more pressure on my shoulders, you know, with it being a solo project. And so, yeah, that was definitely a thought. Didn't want to get hurt. I wanted to stay healthy so I could get enough footage to actually make something that is a worthy piece. So hopefully that happens. Gavin and I'll jump in the booth in the next 2 months and get started. That'll be exciting. See how it comes together.
And how did the season go? Like you mentioned that for Delete, you dedicated your entire season to filming that part. Was it the same thing for your project this year?
It was the same in the sense that I dedicated the whole season to it. It was different in the sense that when I was on the road for Delete, I was with Andrew the entire time. And this year with Gavin, the season just kind of worked out a little different. So we did go to Japan pretty much all of January, um, and that was great. And then afterwards, Gavin went to Austria, and I was planning on going with him, but snow conditions weren't that good there, and it was looking pretty good in Utah. So I actually just changed my flight, flew to Utah here in the States, and then it never really got super good in Austria as far as depth of snow and quality of snow conditions. And so I just stayed around the States, did some filming with Sean Logan and Chris Logan. Um, and so that will make up like the remainder of the shots I got with Gavin. Plus, we're going on a trip here in like 2 weeks where we'll do some springtime jump stuff. So still will probably have some jump tricks in there, but yeah, so it was different in the sense that I wasn't with Gavin the entire time. It was like a lot of on and off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have your opportunities for springtime booters and do your bucket list of tricks you want to get.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, hopefully if all goes well.
And what's your plan? What's your plan of release? Is it kind of what Level One has been doing, like with the Parker videos in the past couple of years, like online YouTube in the fall?
Yeah, pretty much exactly that. It'll just roll out with the level 1 videos. So it'll be premiered on the level 1 tour, and I'll try to be there for as many of those as I can. Well, they'll premiere it around all around the States and some places around the world. And yeah, they'll release it when they release it on the level 1 YouTube.
Do you have a title yet?
We have some ideas, but nothing chosen yet. Yeah, got to keep the ideas secret though.
Okay. We'll have to wait for that.
Yeah, we'll see.
To close off the episode, I have questions from people on Patreon.
Oh yeah, all right,
So
sweet.
I just tell them I got the boss Jonah Williams coming on. Any questions you have, let me know. So first one is Holden Baldassi, who asks, Black Ops or Ben Chetler's? Be honest.
Oh, that's a really good question. Two legendary Powskis in the mix. My honest answer is Black Ops, and it's not because they pay me to say that. I did love. I mean, to be fair, I loved the Ben Chetler. The 120 at least. That was like my favorite Powski, and so it was difficult getting used to a ski that's so different. Like the Ben Chetler 120 is pretty light, pretty snappy. The Black Ops 118 is a lot more damp, heavier, but once I got used to it, I loved it. Like I was like, okay, this is cool. This will bring out a new side of my skiing, I think, where I can charge stuff a little harder. It's like I'm tall and I have a lot of leverage, and so um, I think it accentuates my style to be on a heavier ski actually, and I didn't realize that until I skied the Black Ops. So I feel smoother on them.
What length did you ride?
Um, in the Black Ops 118, I was on a 186, and I actually didn't ski that much for my part. I was mainly skiing that new ski, the Sender Free 110,
Mm-hmm.
which is just a Black Ops 110. It's a slimmed down version of the 118, and that length is 191. So that's what I was mainly on the whole season. Even in Japan, that's what I was skiing. 110, 191, and that's a good ski. I mean, I've been skiing in the park. So, yeah.
And maybe to go off what you just said about width, um, what do you think, for non-sponsored skiers who don't necessarily have the luxury of having like three different types of widths of skis?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the best all-around width for someone who would want to go park? And outside the park, is it like a 105, 110?
There's definitely a spectrum to it. I think if you were skiing an equal amount of park and POW, then I would say 110 is perfect. If you were skiing an equal amount of park and like side country off-piste terrain, but not POW, I would say a little narrower, like a 105 would probably be ideal for me in that range, 104, 105, 106.
Because like with the Rossies right now, what width do you ride in the park?
Well, they have a Black Ops 98 that usually is my park ski, but lately I've just been riding the 110 in the park. That's because it's so warm now and everything's slushy and it's so fun in the slush. But if it wasn't slushy, I'd be riding the 98. But I think like 102 is a perfect park ski width. 100, 102. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we might see some changes to that Black Ops 98 actually in the future, where it might be a little wider, which would be sick.
Future will tell us.
Yeah, the future will tell. I don't even know yet for sure. So,
but yeah, what I was about to say is the funniest thing I saw regarding width in the park was Keegan Kilbride when he was riding the White Walkers at park shoots. And I asked him and he was like, dude, I love them. They're perfect. And I was like, all right, man. But it's yeah.
Yeah, that's Keegan. He doesn't give a fuck. He's just gonna do what he wants to do, and that's that. Which is why he's so sick to watch, I think.
Yeah, man. Then another question from Will Cameron. He says, as one of the most complete skiers, what's his thoughts on the current state of park skiing?
That's a great question. Thanks for the kind words too, Will. I think currently I'm actually the most proud of park skiing and of where park skiing is than I have been in my entire life. And I still ski a lot of park, so I think I'm relevant enough to see what's going on. I watch a lot of videos. I try to watch pretty much everything. I do a lot of backcountry skiing, of course, but I ski a lot of park. I watch a lot of park skiers. I follow the contests. I'm super proud of where park skiing's at. I think we're starting to find a good balance of tech and style in contests, for example, where for a while it just seemed like it was almost going like full aerial mode. And now I feel like there's some skiers showing up that are like, no, you can do it like this and still be at the top of the game. Like Matej, for example, is a really good balance of that. Even Ahal, like he can do the aerial tricks if he wants, but he's also just doing like these crazy like revert, like negative spin nines and stuff. And as far as contest skiing goes, I'm really stoked. I'm having more fun watching contest skiing than I ever have, especially women's contest skiing. Holy cow, has that been fun to watch lately? The girls are all just like on another level right now and riding that momentum. It's sick.
Yeah, I totally agree. Um, I remember seeing a run from Matej at was it the first comp of this season? Maybe Stubai, or I don't know. There's a run of him early season where he does super stylish and creative and technical tricks, and he didn't manage to get that run perfectly, but soon he's gonna get them, and it's super nice to see. And also same thing
Mm-hmm.
for the women's side, where seeing Megan Oldham do a triple, and the other girls also at the bigger at the X Games. There's so many stuff that's so nice to see right now.
Mm-hmm. So true. Yeah, super fun to watch. There was a minute where I wasn't like loving watching kata skiing as much, and the last like year or two, I've been really hyped watching it. It's great. It's cool. It's a good balance. Skiing is growing, I think, and that's good. That's what we want.
Next question from Laurent Olivier Martin. Who's your top three goats in free skiing?
Oh my gosh. Top three goats? That's a legendary question that I should have been more ready for. Um, top three goats. I have to say Wallish is one for sure. I have to also say Henrik top 3 GOAT, partly because I watched those dudes so much growing up. They're like my favorite skiers to watch, and that they're still doing it today, in different ways, but they're still super in it. Like Henrik's still just crushing it. Wallace is giving back to the free ski community like crazy with rail jams and events and all that. The next GOAT pick, it could be several. I would say Casaubon would be my number 3 for sure, because I think his video parts speak for themselves. I mean, it's always been like every part that he's always put out has pretty much been like the most unique, fresh flair on skiing that has happened, even now that he's like maybe getting a little bit older. Not that he's old, but for a skier who's pushing the limits, yeah, he's just still crushing it and has so much style. And you see him ski in person, and he's skiing with the same amount of comfortability as he was when, like 10 years ago. And that's so cool to see. I think it speaks volumes to how much he cares about skiing and sticks with it. So, yep, Casaubon, Henrik, Wallace. Those are my GOATs.
Yeah, I think that's a top 3 I can get behind. Like Wallace, Henrik, you've said really, it's self-explanatory. And then Casaubon, it's like quantity and quality and influence. Like there's so much stuff. Like 1 foot slides are still a thing, but they weren't cool until Phil made them cool again.
Mm-hmm.
There was a 1 year where, like in the B&E episode, he made a lot of 1 foots with Henrik also, and then all of a sudden they were cool again. Like so much stuff like that he has such a huge influence with everything he does.
Yeah, and he used to be an X Games boss too, and I think some of the younger kids maybe don't remember that, but go back and just like Google like Phil Casaubon X Games and watch his old slope style runs where he's doing like switch upright 12, dub Japan to the bottom of the landings like the biggest gangster. Yeah, it's so fun to watch.
And then last question from Ryan Bruninghouse. What's your favorite video part / segment that you've been a part of?
That I've been a part of? Oh, I would have to say my closing segment in the Delete movie. That's been my favorite so far. It's like the most proud of my skiing that I've been so far in my life. I was really happy with the part and the way my skiing was portrayed, and I had so much fun being on the road with that crew all winter. It was like always a good time, even through hardships, and everyone was just bonded and had each other's backs, and we were able to make something really cool out of it. And yeah, that's my favorite for sure. Delete, strictly create, baby.
Well, that's all great stuff. I feel like we could go on for another 2 hours, but I appreciate you coming on, Jonah. Really good chatting with you.
Yes, sir, bro. Great to finally meet you, and stoked to be a part of the podcast program. Thanks for hitting me up.
Yeah, man. And I wish you good luck on the rest of the filming this spring. Hope you get all the bucket list items you have on your list, and hope I'm really hyped to see what you come up with Gavin.
Thanks, bro. I'm stoked too. I'm just hyped to be working with Gavin. He's got the vision, and I think it's a nice combo with my skiing vision. So yeah, I'm really hyped to see how it comes out too. I'm anxious.
Hyped for the fall when all the movies start dropping. Cheers, man.
Yeah, much love, brother.
So this is it for episode 40 with Jonah Williams. Big thanks to the sponsors once again: Rossignol, Planks Clothing, Dickens Restaurants, and Axis Board Shop. Also, big thanks to the patrons on Patreon. If you want to support the podcast, go check it out on patreon.com/the Meran Podcast. Peace.